So when it comes to researching a subject in Google Notebook LM, there's three sort of approaches that you can take really when it comes to subjects. And you can have one notebook that encompasses all of the subjects in one go. You can have separate notebooks that will focus on specific subjects or a mixture of the both. Let me explain. Let me imagine that you're looking at Stoicism, for example. Now, of course, then you can put all your resources into one notebook and drill down into that subject. Let's say you've got one notebook and you want to look at Marcus Aurelius and you want to focus more on that. Well, what that will do, of course, is take sources from your Introduction to Stoicism, a book all about Marcus Aurelius, but maybe how these various characters interacted or influenced or were influenced by Marcus Aurelius. So there's quite an in-depth there. Now, of course, the next way that you can do this is you can go and just put Marcus Aurelius in there and just focus on, let's say you've got several books or sources or lectures or PDFs or reports all about Marcus Aurelius. So then you just drill down very, very deep into that. And again, it depends on which approach is best. But here, of course, you could have several sources about Marcus Aurelius as well into that. Now, of course, then also what you can do is have a bit of a mixture of both, because you could have all these sources here, and then you could also have several sources all about Marcus Aurelius. So that would outweigh all of this. So you'd have almost a little bit of the best of both worlds. And of course, in Google LM, you can turn off certain sources. So you can upload the source and then unclick it. So then Google Notebook LM will ignore that source until you need it again. So really, there's sort of three approaches that you could have. Now, of course, if you're doing separate subjects, you may have a separate notebook on each subject. That can get quite messy, but if that's what you're doing and that's part of your research, then that may be the best approach. So really, you've got these sort of three approaches, and it's up to you which one would work best in your particular chosen subject. Now, there's obviously other tips and tricks that you can do within Google LM to really drill down into just a specific subject, even if you have this approach where it's all a bit of a mishmash of everything. And we'll look at this in another course, in another video, but you could simply ask just to look at Marcus Aurelius. You could ask all about notes about Marcus Aurelius. You could ask very specific questions about one very specific niche thing that you want to drill down in. But that, again, can get quite messy, because then Google and then will take sources from all over the place and they will be referencing all over the place. And again, that could get quite complicated and not what you want. So again, it depends on what your subject is. It depends on the approach that you're taking and how you work best. Which one of these approaches works best for you? So let's go a little bit further into this, how we can organize our sources. So here we are on our Notebook LM dashboard. And as you can see, it's pretty clean and there's not much on here. Incidentally, this is where I keep all my notes and thoughts and organization for this course. So there you go. There's a bit of insight behind the curtain. So you can see what I've done here. I've basically done a very basic, imagining that we're doing studying Stoic philosophy. And of course, you can apply this to anything from the arts to the sciences. So I've got my main book, notebook here, which is the whole of Stoicism. And all the resources are in this one. So this could just be one source, or if I wanted to, I can really drill down. So if you go to the one source, it's got all the books. It's only Stoicism for Dummies, so very basic. But of course, if you were doing this at an academic level, you could have obviously journals and stuff here. And at the time of recording, you can get up to 50 sources here. Yeah, I'll show you some other tricks how you can get even more later on. But it's the moment, and I believe you can upgrade to get 100. And I'm not sure the cost of that, so you could have to look into that if that was helpful. So you can have all your sources here, and this could be your main dashboard, I guess, for doing all your research. And as you know, you can sort of turn these off. So you can just focus on the one source. If you just had, say, one journal on Stoicism that you're studying, for example, you can turn them back on. And of course, then if you want to drill down further, you can sort of go here. So if you were studying Seneca, for example, you could just do have journals here for Seneca and focus on Seneca, for example. So that's one way of organizing it. And of course, the great thing is if you can get 50 sources here, and within those 50 sources, sorry, if you can get you can get 100 notebooks, and within each notebook you can get up to 50 sources. That's quite a lot of resources you can have and you can drill into. So that's one way that you can organize your notebooks if that is helpful. Now, the other thing I should say is, of course, you can organize it in this way. I find it looks nice, but it's not particularly helpful. So this is a much easier way to organize by title. So then you can use various codes, if class codes or codes that are helpful for you in your research. But the same applies within the notebook as well. So this is helpful at the moment, but imagine when you've got 50 sources here, how messy this can get. And one thing at the moment that I do is pull this out. So if you've got a long title going on, that can be quite confusing as well. So the best thing is just to keep your notes really tidy. You may, again, want to, you could use a code, for example. So if it's an overview of Stoicism, you may just want to use 001 or something, or 0, I should say, 0, 1, I don't know, something like that. And then you want Stoicism, and then you could sort of use review, whatever's helpful for you. And then you don't need all this. You may want to add Morris. Again, if this is, you don't need a PDF and all this type of stuff. So whatever's helpful for you, you may just want to use whatever references or footnotes you're using for that particular source as well. That could be another way of doing it, having some sort of code. And then again, you're just keeping things really, really tidy. And again, you may want to actually rename the source actually in the original file. So if you're replicating the file in several notebooks as well, you're not having to rename it across the whole notebook. So that's another way. Try and keep this really tidy. Try and keep your notes really tidy, or else you'll find very quickly that things can get quite confusing.